Welcome back to the channel. I got a really cool 7-color simulated process print going on white shirts. Before we get to the printing, let me show you how I separate it. All right, let's dive into it. Here is the artwork that the client has provided. First thing we're going to do is make sure it is in RGB mode, which it is currently in CMYK, so let's switch that over to RGB. And we're going to come down here to the only layer. It is on a transparent background. I'm just going to change that to layer 0, so that way we can work with ActionSeps, which is what we are using to separate this piece of artwork with. And we have no channels in there, so we are good to go. I mean, this artwork is pretty there's no adjustments as far as the resolution. Let's go over to image size, and we're going to print this at 15 inches wide. We're just a little under 15 inches at 150 dpi, which is absolutely fine. We could res it up, but I'm going to leave it as is. We'll hit OK. We'll come down here to Start ActionSeps. Now our separations are all finished. We'll go over here to channels, and on our t-shirt color, we'll double click on that. And we're going to change it to white because this is going on a white shirt. Now it does look a little funky at this moment because we need to add some black. But before we do that, let's create a proof window. Let's just hit proof window real quick. And we'll go over to our proof window. We'll turn all these separations off real quick. And I could have hit proof window before, but I kind of skipped a step there, which is not a big deal. But so we got our RGB representation here. And what we'll do is we'll go down here to create black saturate. And the reason I'm going to use black saturate is there are quite a bit of dark tones going on in the hair here. And we want to make sure that we get a great representation with our black. So we'll hit create black saturate. And as you can see, it picked up a lot of shadow tones in the face, the eyes, and the hands, everything else going on here. We'll turn our t-shirt color back on. Our white underbase we don't really need because we're going on a white shirt. So let's just go ahead and we'll get rid of that. We'll turn on a red. It does look like we have a little bit of blue here in the eyes that are painted onto his fingers. We'll turn on the lemon yellow. Purple doesn't really look like there's a whole lot going on, so we'll come over here and we'll click on merge purple right here. Turn our black back on, our red. We still have some blue, our yellow to help create those flesh tones. There isn't any green. There is quite a bit of turquoise here in the eyes. Now there is gray in the hair, but it's also kind of pulling gray out of the face. And I'll show you how to go back and correct that. And then we do have some highlight white just to kind of pull back some of these colors in the cheeks here. And I know you're probably looking at the difference between these two. One of the things about separating artwork in Photoshop is you don't always get 100% accurate representation of what you're going to get from your separations here to what your image looks like. And that just takes some time and some experience to really kind of understand that. It doesn't have to, if I were to make this look as dark as this, it would come out too dark and not be an accurate representation of what we have in our proof window over here. So let's go ahead, we'll get rid of our green because we just don't really need it. Our cool gray. Now let's click on, I'm going to hold command, or if you're on a PC you could hold control. I'm going to hold that over the red, and then we'll come over to the lemon yellow as well. I'm going to hold command and shift just so we can add to our selection. We'll come down to this cool gray, and we're going to fill this with the white. So I'm going to hit command delete to kind of get rid of some of that gray, so that way we're left with just the gray up here in the areas where we need it, because we didn't need all that additional gray in there. And our highlight white, we're going to need that, of course, as I mentioned, for some of these highlight areas in the hair, the face here, and it also pulls back on some of these areas where, let's go ahead and change this back to black just real quick for demonstration's sake. And you can see what it is doing, where it's adding some white to the flesh tones here, just to kind of give the skin a little bit of some highlight areas. Otherwise it'll be pretty dark and not look natural. So there we go. We have, let's slowly build this back up. We got our black, we got our red, we have our blue for the eyes, and we'll print it in that exact order. We have our lemon yellow, we got our turquoise that's going into the eyes that are painted on the fingers there. We got our cool gray, and then our highlight white. Now we would just simply take this and we could just save it as a PSD. So we would save this as a PSD. And when we brought that into Illustrator, and I'll show you real quick how I would go about bringing this into Illustrator and setting it up and sending it through a RIP software. Just give it one moment while it pops open, but in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll get rid of these RGB channels here. We'll click yes. You could also use the buttons down here to save as a DCS 2.0, but this is how to manually do it. We'll turn all these on so that way we have everything there. We'll go to File, we'll save it as a copy, and we're going to save it as Photoshop DCS 2.0 with the spot colors, and we'll go ahead and save that, and I'll show you the difference real quick. We'll keep the default settings. So let's come over here. We're going to go to our templates, which I'll have a link down below in the description as to where you can get these templates. So we'll take our t-shirt registration template. This is oversized, so we'll use our oversized template. We'll go to File and Place. Oops, hit the wrong button. Let's go back. File, Place, and then we'll find our artwork, which in this case I just tossed it onto the desktop just for demonstration purposes. And as you can see, when you bring it in, you're getting a CMYK representation. We'll just kind of center align this thing, bring our registration marks up, and what we can do is we can go to let's go up here to Window, and then Separations Preview, and let's see where that palette pulled up. There we go. We'll click on Overprint Preview, and once we turn the CMYK off, we get a better representation of what it's going to look like. And if we went to File and Print and Output, once we printed it to our printer, we would have to be sure to turn off the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. The computer that I'm showing this demonstration on doesn't have a printer hooked up to it aside from a copier, so these are grayed out for now. You would make sure that mode is changed to separations. But let's back up. We'll get rid of this artwork, and let's bring in our EPS. We'll go to File, Place, we'll find our EPS, and I'll show you the difference. Really the only difference is we're getting rid of the CMYK channels, so you don't have to worry about fussing with all that. And we would just bring our registration marks up. Let's go over to Separations Preview, and you'll notice that there isn't really the option to once I click on Overprint Preview, it doesn't give me the option to turn off CMYK. It's because we don't have those channels in there anymore. So you can get rid of the t-shirt color because we don't really need to print that out as a piece of film. That's something I probably could have done over here in Photoshop before I saved it as an EPS, but that's all right. We can always deselect that stuff in Illustrator, and generally this is how I do print it. However, we do have the option to go ahead and separate this as so we can print it straight through Photoshop to our film printer, but we happen to have a RIP software. So let's go ahead and get on press, and I'll show you how this is printed wet on wet, no white base. We'll start with the black, we'll do red, we'll do our blue, our lemon yellow, our turquoise, cool gray, and our highlight white. Let's go. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.